The old house loomed large. Megan and Miranda shivered as their parents pulled up the driveway. It had been empty for years. Their great aunt had passed away there. No one else dared to live within its walls. Whispers of strange occurrences kept people away. But the family needed a home. This one, though steeped in unsettling history, was theirs. Inside, dust covered everything. Cobwebs clung to the high ceilings. The air felt heavy, stagnant. Megan and Miranda shared a worried look. Their parents, determined to make the house a home, remained oblivious. Nightfall brought an unsettling chill. The girls huddled together in their room, listening to the house creak and groan. Sleep came slowly, filled with uneasy dreams. "Did you hear that?" Miranda whispered, her eyes wide with fear. Megan listened intently. A soft whisper seemed to weave through the darkness, just beyond the edge of hearing. "It's probably just the wind," Megan replied, trying to sound brave, but doubt gnawed at her. The house felt alive, its very walls whispering secrets. The whispers continued each night. They seemed to slither from the shadows, pronouncements from an unseen entity. Objects moved without explanation. A book tumbled from a shelf. A vase shattered on the floor. Fear became a constant companion. Megan and Miranda pleaded with their parents. They begged to leave the house. Their parents dismissed their fears. They blamed settling floorboards and drafts for the unsettling events. One night, Megan awoke to a cold hand on her arm. She gasped, sitting bolt upright in bed. Moonlight filtered through the window, casting long, eerie shadows across the room. There at the foot of her bed stood a shadowy figure. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural light. Megan screamed, the sound echoing through the empty house. Miranda stirred beside her. "What is it, Megan?" She mumbled, her voice thick with sleep. But Megan couldn't answer. She could only stare in horror as the figure glided closer, its icy breath sending shivers down her spine. The figure vanished as quickly as it appeared. Megan and Miranda, huddled together, trembled until dawn. Their parents, awoken by Megan's scream, found nothing amiss. They dismissed the event as a nightmare. But Megan and Miranda knew the truth. The house was haunted. They were not alone. Days turned into weeks, each one more terrifying than the last. Scratches appeared on the walls as if clawed by unseen hands. A foul odor permeated the air, clinging to the back of their throats. One evening, Miranda emerged from the basement, her face white with terror. 3 long scratches marred her arm, oozing blood. This time their parents couldn't ignore the evidence. Something was terribly wrong. "It scratched me," Miranda cried, her voice high-pitched with terror. She cradled her injured arm, tears streaming down her face. Their mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. This was no nightmare, this was real. The haunting reached its terrifying peak one stormy night. Thunder roared, shaking the very foundations of the house. Lightning flashed, illuminating the terrified faces of the family. Miranda, her eyes wide and vacant, began to speak in a voice that was not her own. She contorted, her body twisting at unnatural angles. Furniture rattled, objects flew across the room, the air crackled with a malevolent energy. Megan and her parents watched in horror, helpless to stop the terrifying spectacle. Miranda, or whatever had taken possession of her, let out an ear-splitting shriek. The entity had revealed itself, its grip on Miranda tightening. Get out! Get out of my house!" Miranda shrieked, her voice guttural and distorted, no longer her own. The room pulsed with an unseen energy, the air thick with menace. Terror choked Megan and her parents, rooting them to the spot, helpless against the supernatural force that held Miranda captive. Desperate, their father contacted a priest. He arrived, his face grim, his eyes filled with a wary understanding. He recognized the signs, the hallmarks of a malevolent spirit, its grip on the family home, its hold on young Miranda. The priest, armed with faith and ancient rites, confronted the entity. The house became a battleground, the air thick with prayers and the stench of evil. For hours the battle raged. The entity, its voice filled with rage and despair, refused to relinquish its hold. But the priest, his voice unwavering, his faith unshakable, fought back. He commanded the entity to leave, his words echoing with the weight of centuries of faith. Finally, as dawn approached, a silence descended. Miranda collapsed, her body free from the possession. The priest, his face bathed in sweat, his eyes filled with weariness, chanted the final rites. The air, thick with the residue of the supernatural struggle, slowly began to clear. The entity was gone, banished back to the shadows from whence it came. Exhausted and shaken, the family fled the house. They left behind the terror that had plagued them. They sought refuge in the familiar comfort of their former home, their former lives. The ordeal had left its mark. The shadows of the haunting lingered in their eyes. We tried to forget, to move on, but the experience had changed us, bound us together in fear and shared trauma. Miranda, once vibrant and carefree, now bore the weight of the possession. She rarely spoke of the ordeal, but the fear remained etched in her eyes. They were haunted by the memories and sought solace in normalcy, clinging to the hope that the nightmare was truly over. Their parents, forever marked by the helplessness they had felt, tried to rebuild their lives, their family, shattered by the haunting. Their silhouettes, small and vulnerable against the vast expanse of the setting sun, seemed to carry the weight of the ordeal. They were leaving the darkness behind, stepping back into the light, but the shadows of the haunted house stretched long and far, threatening to engulf them once more. Years passed. Megan blossomed into a confident young woman. She pursued her dreams, her fears fading into distant memory. Miranda, however, remained withdrawn. The trauma of the possession lingered, casting a shadow over her life. She couldn't escape the feeling that something sinister followed her, lurking just beyond the edge of her vision. One day, Megan and Miranda received a call. Our father had passed away. Grief-stricken, Megan and Miranda returned to their childhood home. The house stood silent, shrouded in an unsettling stillness. As they stepped inside, memories flooded back. The air felt heavy, charged with an unseen energy. Megan shivered, a sense of unease settling over her. The house was a tomb of memories, each creaking step, each shadowed corner, whispering tales of our terrifying encounter. The air was thick with the past, the silence heavy with unspoken words, unconfronted fears. Megan, despite her outward confidence, felt a tremor of unease. Miranda, her eyes wide with a familiar terror, seemed to shrink into herself as if bracing for a blow. That night, as Megan slept, she was awakened by a familiar sound, a soft whisper slithering from the shadows. She sat up, her heart pounding in her chest. The room was dark, the only light coming from the moon shining through the window. And then she saw her, Miranda, standing at the foot of the bed, her eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "It's not over, Megan, it never ends." The room grew cold, the air thick with dread. Megan watched in horror as Miranda, her face contorted in a grotesque parody of a smile, reached out a hand towards her. The horrifying truth dawned on Megan. The haunting had never truly left. It had simply been biding its time, its grip on Miranda tightening with each passing year. My breath hitched in my throat. The shadows on the wall behind Miranda danced and twisted, taking on monstrous shapes. The air crackled with an unseen energy, a malevolent force emanating from her sister, twisting her features, contorting her smile into a grotesque mockery of warmth. The whisper echoed in the silence, chilling Megan to the bone. "It never ends." I screamed, the sound echoing through the empty house, a desperate plea lost in the suffocating darkness. But no one came. Miranda, her eyes burning with an unholy light, lunged. The nightmare had returned, its grip on her sister absolute, its hunger insatiable. The haunting continued. It never ends. The darkness swallowed them whole, the lingering dread a constant reminder of the terror that refused to die. Do you think the terror is still alive? Leave your comments below.